Andrew Atkinson was born in North Carolina on September 6, 1968, and went by the nickname Andy. In 1990, 21-year-old Andy was living in Houston, Texas, and dating 22-year-old Cheryl Lynn Henry. Their relationship was going well until tragedy struck at the end of August 1990. On August 22nd, they went to a bar called Bayou Mama's with Cheryl's sister. Later on, after parting ways with her sister, she and Andy drove to a wooded area known as the Enclave, where kids were known to party. Sadly, they would never leave that area alive. When they failed to arrive back home that night, their families reported them missing. The following day, a Cisco food security guard spotted Andy's car parked at the Enclave with Cheryl's purse and shoes still inside. He found Cheryl's information and called her family. Once the police were notified, they brought in a tracker dog to search the area. That's when they found Cheryl and Andy's remains nearby. Cheryl had been sexually assaulted, suffered a fatal wound to the neck, and was then covered with boards. Andy, on the other hand, had been tied to a tree 100 yards from Cheryl with a fatal neck wound in a very
crazy,
gruesome
tied
manner.
to a tree.
A golf club was
He was tied to a tree?
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
what
hear
she
that.
said.
What the
Three
fuck?
golf balls with it that were
Welcome
lined
everyone
up,
to our
one
first
after the
ever
other, and
reaction
pointed
to
toward where Cheryl's body was
horror
ultimately
slash
found.
scary
Also
cases.
strange were the
So always don't
four
forget to like and subscribe and
partially
hope you enjoy.
deflated balloons that were found tied to the tree above Cheryl's body.
Welcome, John
and
and
a
Monkey.
crisp $20 bill lying next to her.
I can turn it up a
The
little bit.
profiler of the suspect suggests tied to a tree.
Okay, let me raise this real quick, and then I'm gonna lower you just a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, welcome everybody to yeah, 5 true crime fuck 5 true crime cases. So we're gonna be reacting to a good amount of these. If this gets like 7 likes, we'll do more. At least 7 likes.
100 yards.
So yeah, always don't forget to like, subscribe. Hope you enjoy, and yeah, we're gonna be reacting after probably. We're just gonna be listening and try to here and there put some little comments and shit like that.
Okay.
From
Yeah,
Cheryl
hope you
with
enjoy.
a fatal neck wound in a very gruesome manner. A golf club was found in a nearby field and had 3 golf balls with it that were lined up one after the other and pointed toward where Cheryl's body was ultimately found. Also strange were the 4 partially deflated balloons that were found tied to the tree above Cheryl's body and a crisp $20 bill lying next to her. A profiler of the suspect suggested that the man was local and actually knew Cheryl and Andy. This could be plausible considering her killer covered her body with boards, but left Andy tied to a tree out in the open.
It's
On
crazy.
June 20th, 1990, 2 months before their murders, a woman was sexually assaulted after returning to her boyfriend's house on Terracotta in northwest Houston. When she entered the home and walked to the upstairs bedroom, the man put a revolver to her head, tied her hands behind her back, and then put duct tape over her mouth. After he was done sexually assaulting her, he put her on the floor and told her not to move and said, and I quote, "I may be in the house for an hour or for 5 minutes." I'm assuming he said that to scare her so she wouldn't move. Thankfully, she survived and was able to provide a composite sketch of the man. She also reported that he was wearing some kind of uniform. Could that have been a security guard uniform? Interestingly, before the attack, an ex-employee at her moving company had threatened her life. However, police were never able to prove that the man who threatened her life was also the one who attacked her. In 2001, DNA linked the 2 cases. The DNA profile was uploaded to CODIS, but unfortunately, there were no matches. In March of that same year, police received a letter claiming to know the identity of the killer. The letter read, "If you want to know who killed C. Henry and A. Atkinson, it will cost $100,000. The author then asked investigators to respond in the personal column of the Houston Chronicle by March 12, 2001. It also read, "A lawyer will be hired to make sure you play straight." I find it interesting that U was not spelled out, but the person just used the letter U. This was way before that became normalized in text messages. Unfortunately, there was no more communication with the author of the letter, and the investigator held on to it for 9 years before releasing it to the public.
Bro.
To this day, 25 different suspects have had their DNA tested, but none have matched the DNA found from the crime scenes. Since they have DNA, it's likely this case will be sent off for forensic genetic genealogy at some point, but as of 2024, both cases remain unsolved.
So they went cold, pretty much.
Bro, How the fuck did you? Never mind, bro.
That's crazy though.
Got tied to a tree. So that motherfucker was using some like good long ass rope or some shit, bro.
Bro, that's crazy. Like just the way, just tied up to a tree, and then the other chick just like 3 balloons and then buried under fucking piles of wood with the $20 next to her.
That's crazy.
Like what the
Spooky.
fuck? That is. It's
Imagine
like,
finding that shit, bro. Like, damn.
yeah, imagine just someone is like, you see a motherfucker tied to a tree and then the chick just buried under wood with balloons on her. It's like, what?
Crazy. Spooky.
It is.
Right.
Alright, on to the next one. The disappearance of Larry Bob Ballard Jr.
In 2023, 56-year-old
2023?
Larry Bob
That's
Ballard
crazy.
Jr.,
That's last
who
year.
simply went by Bob, was living in Douglasville, Texas, with his wife Connie. Connie described Bob as a bubbly, happy person who loved to make people laugh. 17 years after meeting, all their bills were paid off, they had animals together, and by all accounts were living their best years. That is until Bob up and vanished one day. Connie and Bob had met in 2006 while she was working as a dog groomer. He came in to sharpen the blades for a coworker of hers, and she was immediately smitten and wanted to know why she wasn't asked if her blades needed sharpened. 4
Whoa.
years later, in 2010, they were married and were still together in 2023. On April 26, 2023, Bob got up early, woke up Connie, and told her he was heading to a feed store in Atlanta, Texas. He asked if she needed cigarettes, and she said yes. Once he was gone, it hit her that he had gotten up before her, which was very unusual. So she got up, made a cup of coffee, and sent him a text letting him know they needed more coffee creamer, but she never got a response. She then tried calling him, but once again, there was no response. Unfortunately, Bob had past struggles with drug addiction, so when he didn't respond, she thought he might be off doing drugs. He finally called her back at 2 p.m. the next day. He told her he would be home as soon as he got his truck unstuck. Bob's brother-in-law went to help him, but was unable to get the truck out of the mud hole because it had a blown tire and no spare. By 11 p.m., his brother-in-law decided to leave, but
Middle
Bob
of nowhere.
refused because he didn't want to leave his welding equipment unattended, worried
Oh,
that someone
brother.
might steal it. When the brother-in-law returned the following morning with a tire, the truck was there, but Bob was nowhere to be found. The truck was locked and the keys were missing. Connie quickly called the police to report him missing. Investigators tracked his phone's location and showed Bob had most likely left the location on foot. They
The
know this
fuck?
because the pings weren't moving very fast, but showed he was heading to an area north of Douglasville around Highway 8 and County Road 2122. This is where the story gets really strange. His phone was actually found inside the truck, sitting on the console.
Whoa.
Did he return
Huh.
to the truck after walking to the area where law enforcement tracked his phone? Connie has even admitted that finding his phone in the truck was strange, considering investigators claim they saw the phone walking away from the area. While drugs could have been a factor in his disappearance, Connie said that his diabetes and low blood sugar could as well. Connie continues to search for Bob, but as of 2024, he has never been found, and this case remains unsolved.
It's probably dead now. That's crazy.
Holy-
Wait, so he went pretty much in the middle of nowhere, and
Yeah, hold on. Let me pull this shit up. So
So-
where was he? He was here, I think.
County
over here.
Road, and he walked all the way to County Road 2122, and they found
In the
his.
middle of the night, mind you. That's fucking terrifying.
So they found his phone there, even though he called her at 2 in the morning at pretty much County Road, and that's where they found his body, or said where his trace pretty much went cold
Yeah, that's where he went, but then they found the phone back
at
over,
the truck.
yeah, over here. What the hell? So someone might have he might have got here. I don't know. Honestly don't know.
He probably. I don't know. It's
I don't
weird.
know, cause if he got killed, then how would the killers know? that
Bro
his
just
truck was here?
wandered off, literally.
Yeah, he could have just.
But that's like an hour-long walk, 2.5 miles of walking, and pretty much like almost in the middle of nowhere.
Pitch black, yeah,
Yeah.
pitch black, bro. Mind you, because this shit is just woods. Fuck that,
He probably was on drugs and just, because
bro.
depending on the type of drug, he was probably on some strong shit and fucking just went crazy mentally.
Yeah,
100% that guy's dead.
Spooky, bro.
Yeah.
Matthew Lewis Mason was born on July
Oh,
22nd,
it's a kid.
2014.
Oh
In
no.
early 2018, 3-year-old Matthew was living with his mother, Amanda Mason, and her boyfriend, Maurice Hull, in the Stocks Creek Mobile Home Park in Port Huron Township, Michigan. On February 19, 2018, Amanda and Maurice left for work and left Matthew, who was still in bed, with the babysitter. The first thing the babysitter did was check on him, and to her horror, she found him unresponsive and quickly called 911. When emergency services arrived, they sadly pronounced Matthew dead. An autopsy found that he had blunt force injuries all over his
Oh
my
body,
God.
That's
injuries that his
crazy.
mother and boyfriend could not explain. Several neighbors told investigators that the child was being mistreated and neglected. While
Damn.
it seemed that the resolution in this case should have been quick, it actually took 2 years for the autopsy report to come out and another 3 years for Matthew's
Wait, go
grandparents,
back
who are trying to get justice in
to
the
the-
case, to receive.
To the paper.
Wait.
Should be like after that.
Oh wait, I went too far. There.
Right there. Final diagnosis: blunt impact injuries to the head, multiple facial and scalp concussions, facial abrasions, pectoral hemorrhages, eyes, facial skin, oral mucosa, and neck. Blunt impact injuries to the torso, soft tissue hemorrhages, neck, contusions involving the chest and back. Blunt impact injuries to the genital,
Oh
scrotal
my.
contusion, paratesticular, soft tissue hemorrhage, blunt impact injuries of the extremities, multiple. What the fuck, bro? Blunt impact injuries to the extremities, multiple contusions, viral testing, nasopharyngeal swab, no viruses detected, blood cultures, no growth, toxicology testing negative, sodium 129, hyperthermia. On trauma injuries with feature of mechanical asphyxiation, homicide.
God damn.
Bro, that's crazy.
the results. Shockingly, this is not the first
Bro,
time
that's
the
literally
family
like pretty
has
much
gone through
beating up a
this.
child almost
Amanda's
to
brother
death.
Andrew
Yeah.
That's crazy.
and his wife and stepmother to his kids, Hillary, were convicted for the May 2015 death of his 5-year-old daughter,
Oh my
Mackenzie,
God.
That's
and for the
crazy,
abuse
bro.
of her 3-year-old sister, Michaela. They were both sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In 2021, a final autopsy was released and showed that Matthew had been beaten and strangled to death, and his death was ruled a homicide.
Bro.
However, prosecutors said they still lacked the evidence to arrest Amanda or Maurice. That's a strange conclusion, considering they were the only ones who lived in the home with Matthew. Plus, it was discovered that Maurice was no stranger to Child Protective Services and had multiple allegations of child abuse in his past with different children.
That's
If
crazy.
that's not bad enough,
Aw.
Maurice's parents babysat Matthew 5 days a week and knew about the abuse going on. Also, CPS had been called out to the house numerous times, and
Child
at one
Protective
point,
Services.
Matthew was removed after Maurice struck him. In the end, all CPS did was suggest anger management for the boyfriend.
Bruh, you're
Bruh.
joking.
Happened. Amanda's mother, Amy, sent
Please take a long, hard look at Matthew and see that he's not happy and doesn't feel safe there. If he did, he wouldn't cry when he had to leave him there. I'm not sure what's causing him to feel like this, but I guarantee he feels unsafe. That's why he didn't want to let go of us. You're his mom, and I truly believe you do your best to keep him safe, but when you're not there, he's not safe and it's obvious. Please put aside all your other feelings and do what you have to do to make him feel safe. Don't think about yourself, Maurice, or his Amazon loudmouth mother, and take a good look at how much Matthew is hurting. He's old enough to understand and remember what is going on. Please, please, please protect your child whom you should love more than life.
Damn.
her daughter a text begging her to keep Matthew safe and voiced her concerns about the abuse. She also called out Maurice and his mother in the text. Sadly, it didn't help. This next bit of information
the
is all
babysitter.
alleged to have happened. Amanda allegedly recanted her past abuse allegations. Allegedly, Amanda had abused and neglected Matthew herself. She also allegedly showed no emotion when Matthew died. This part was noted by the investigator. At this
That's
point,
crazy.
it seems that Matthew's grandparents, Amy and David Mason, are the only ones fighting for justice in the case. And sadly, as of May 2024, no one has ever been arrested, and this case remains unsolved.
That's crazy, bro. Poor
Man.
kid. That's so
Pick up the parents,
fucked.
bro.
Literally.
Bro.
That's sad.
Sad, bro. It's so sad. So, where do we need?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh. Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I'm looking at exhaust videos for the car.
Oh, okay. Have fun.
Roxanne Elizabeth Paltoff was born on January 3, 1988, and went by the nickname Roxy. She was said to love clothes, fashion design, and dreamed of becoming a stylist. In the summer of 2006, 18-year-old Roxy was living in Austin, Texas, and had been dating a man for the last 2 years named Lewis Walls. The two met on July 4, 2004, when Roxy was just 16 years old. Unfortunately, he started their relationship off with a lie. He told her he was 19 when he was really 28.
Damn.
What the
Didn't care
fuck,
for
bro?
him, especially since he had lied in the beginning. Unfortunately, Lewis was an abusive person who had a history of threatening ex-girlfriends, and his relationship with Roxy was no different. 2 of his exes even took out protective orders against him.
That's crazy.
Lewis's criminal record dates back to 1995. Interestingly, and I always find this so ironic, Lewis's mother didn't approve of Roxy, even though
Bruh.
she often cared for his 2 children. Roxy's mother, Lizzie, disliked Lewis because she thought he had a bad attitude and believing his life was heading nowhere. A friend of Roxy's said that he would occasionally cheat and push her around. She even began noticing bruises and cuts on Roxy's face. However, when asked about it, Roxy would get very defensive. Another friend said that Lewis had hit Roxy in the nose so hard one time that it caused serious damage, and she had to
Crazy.
have surgery to fix it. Unfortunately, the relationship would continue to worsen, and during the summer of 2006, Roxy would strangely disappear. On July 7, 2006, Roxy and Lewis were celebrating their 2nd anniversary and decided to spend the night at the Budget Inn off I-35 in Austin.
What the
However,
fuck?
by the next morning, she was gone, never to be seen again. Lewis claimed they got into an argument and she stormed off between 9 and 10 p.m., carrying only her ID. He said he tried to follow her, but she told him to leave her alone, so he returned to their room. He then claims he waited about 20 minutes and then went looking for her, but she was nowhere to be found. The next morning, on July 8th, he called Lizzie and informed her of her daughter's disappearance. She, in turn, called the police and reported her missing. When police arrived at the motel, Lewis had strangely already checked out and gone to his sister's house. He also took all of Roxy's belongings with him, and housekeepers had already cleaned the room. If something had happened in the motel room, any likely evidence was lost. It's also of note that the motel is known for rampant drug and gang activity. Definitely not a good place to walk away from alone. Allegedly, an employee at the motel witnessed Roxy storming off on the night of the 7th, but investigators have not verified this. 5 days after Roxy's disappearance, on July 12th, Lewis gave Roxy's family her cell phone. Her family then requested the phone records from T-Mobile and found that Lewis had made multiple calls to his ex in New Mexico between July 8th and July 12th. When questioned, she said that Lewis called and said, and I quote, "I am in trouble. I effed up." They also discovered that some of the calls were roaming, which means that the phone would have had to be on the move and not sitting in a motel room like Lewis claimed. Then, on July 13th, at a Motel 6, not far from the Budget Inn that Roxy disappeared from, a man by the name of Jeffrey was arrested for attacking and attempting to sexually assault a woman. When officers checked his wallet, they found Roxy's ID.
Oh.
Jeffrey could
Ooh.
never explain where he got the ID, and in the end, all charges against him for the attack on the woman were dropped. It's also of note that Jeffrey is deaf and has been accused of taking advantage of the deaf community in Austin. 2
It's
years
crazy.
after Roxy's disappearance, Lewis was charged with making a terroristic threat against his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Talbert. According to her, when she rejected his advances, he whispered into her ear, and I quote, "I don't want to kill you like I did that girl Roxanne." She also said
my
he
God.
attempted to get her involved in prostitution. In 2014, Lewis was in prison serving a 2-year sentence for burglary and bail jumping. In 2021, 15 years after Roxy's disappearance, investigators received a tip that she was seen in Amarillo, Texas, about 500 miles from the motel. However, as you may know, eyewitness accounts are far from credible. Here's a video clip of Lewis being confronted by an accuser.
Put it on my sister. Lulu, everybody know me. Everybody know me. Everybody. You a murderer because you killed that girl.
As of today, Lewis and Jeffrey remain the two main persons of interest in her disappearance, and as of 2024, Roxy has never been found, and this case remains unsolved.
Cold.
The fuck?
That's crazy. The unsolved murder of Sherry Ann
Sherry
Jarvis.
Ann Jarvis was born on March 9,
Another kid,
1966, in Stillwater, Minnesota, and went by the nickname Tatey. Sherry was described as a street-smart girl who was very extroverted and intelligent. She was said to love children, animals, and horseback riding. Unfortunately, by 1979, Sherry had missed so much school that she was removed from her parents' custody and placed into a temporary foster home to await a juvenile detention hearing for the absences. However, she would never face the judge because on the day of the hearing, in March of 1980, she ran away from the Washington County Courthouse where the detention hearing was set to take place, along with two other girls. By the time they got to Green Bay, Wisconsin, over 200 miles from Stillwater, the other two girls decided to return home, but Sherry refused. Since the girls took the car, Sherry was left to walk. 5 months later, in August of 1980, her family received a letter from Sherry, who was in Denver, Colorado. She told them she was upset about being incarcerated and they wouldn't see her again until she was at least 18 years old. In October, there was a sighting of her in Rockport, Texas on Halloween. 3 witnesses claimed they had seen her and said she wanted to visit a friend at the now defunct Ellis Prison Farm. One of those witnesses was the manager at the South End Gulf Station, and the other was 2 waitresses at the Hitchin Post truck stop. One of the waitresses asked the girl if her parents knew where she was, and she replied, "Who cares?" It remains unclear who she wanted to see at the Ellis Prison Farm. Sadly, Sherry was never seen alive again after that day. On November 1st, 1980, in Huntsville, Texas, a truck driver passing by the Sam Houston National Forest at around 9:30 a.m. discovered Sherry's unclothed body about 20 feet off Interstate 45.
That's
She
crazy.
had sadly been beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled to death.
Christ.
She was also
Bro.
found with deep bite marks on her shoulder. Unfortunately, they were not able to recover DNA from the sexual assault kit. It's theorized that an object was used on her instead, and that's why DNA could not be recovered. This lends a hand to the theory that her murderer was female. The theory also suggested that men typically bite women in more sensual areas and not on their shoulders. Investigators believe her killer picked her up while she was hitchhiking. Another theory is that Sherry's murder is linked to 3 other murders that occurred in 1980 alongside Interstate 45. All 3 girls were strangled and sexually assaulted, similar to how Sherry was sexually assaulted. Sadly, her family was unaware of her murder because she remained unidentified until 2021.
That's
It's been
crazy.
over 40 years since she was murdered, and as of
40 years?
2024, this case remains unsolved.
That's crazy, bro. What the fuck? That's crazy.
Bro. Dude, fucking Texas is scary, bro. Fuck that.
Alright, let's see what I missed.
Literally.
Oh, fuck, it's over.
No, we could roll up another one.
For real. There's literally this one right here, too. Fuck it. It's time.
Alright, Dr. Guinness is now watching as well. The disappearance of Alwyn Albright.
Alwyn Albright was born on January 18, 1945. Unfortunately, he had a learning disability, which led to him being bullied. Because of that, he quit school at an early age. His family believes he likely suffered from dyslexia, but since it wasn't as widely understood back then, it most likely went undiagnosed. Due to this, he was unable to write or spell and could only sign his name. Regardless, he still made it through life just fine, working at his family's wood pulp business. By 2019, 74-year-old Alwyn was a divorced father of an adult son, living alone at the Gates apartment in Gilmer, Texas. Over the
Texas
years,
again,
he had
bro.
remained close to his family, especially his brothers. His family would often bring him food and small amounts of cash to help him get by, and he would almost daily stop by the local laundromat to see his brother who worked there. After moving into the Gates apartment complex, he met a woman named Amanda Garcia who also lived there, and the two became involved. However, she was also seeing another man named Mavis Waters, who Alwyn didn't care for. Mavis allegedly had a lengthy criminal record, and the two men were not on friendly terms. It was even reported that Alwyn ran Mavis off one time by pulling out his pocket knife during an altercation. It's unclear what the altercation was about. My guess is it was over Amanda. In early June 2019, Alwyn was driving to his brother's house when the engine in his early 2000s car suddenly blew up. This left him with no way to get around, and he was unfortunately unable to get a loan for a new car. That's when a man who also lived in the apartment complex offered to sell him a 1990s black Ford Mustang for $500. However, Alwyn didn't have that much cash, and the man agreed to let him pay it off over time. His brother had tried to talk him out of getting the car because it wasn't in good shape, but he bought it anyway and gave the man $50 as a down payment. He then sold the car with the blown-up motor for $200. Since he was living off his Social Security checks and had no savings, this was a lot of money for him. A few days later, on July 8, 2019, Alwyn strangely failed to show up at the laundromat as he did every day. His brother found this strange and decided to stop by his apartment to check on him since Alwyn didn't have a cell phone. When he arrived, he knocked on the door, but there was no answer. The next day, he tried again, but once again, nothing. Other family members got involved, and they began trying to find anyone who might have seen him. By day 3, when there was still no sign of Alwyn, they reported him missing. Investigators learned that on July 6, 2019, he allegedly let Amanda drive the Mustang. When she returned to the parking lot, she accidentally hit a curb, which she claims upset Alwyn. Soon after, she called 911 and said he was trying to break into her apartment. A few minutes after the police arrived, Alwyn was seen walking away on foot, headed toward downtown. While he wasn't known for walking away from his home, they did confirm this through surveillance footage. Unfortunately, that was the last known sighting of him. At this point, investigators and the family disagree on what might have happened to him. The family believes he met with foul play, but investigators say they haven't found evidence to support that. It seems that after he went missing, Amanda possibly drove the car because it was found in a different parking spot than it was the day he went missing. Also, items were missing from his apartment that Amanda had previously shown interest in. It's also of note that when his family was able to get inside the apartment, they found blood on the top of his pants and the bottom of a shirt. The family requested the blood be processed for DNA, but investigators say they need to compare it against Alwyn's DNA and not a family member. It's now been almost 5 years since he went missing, and as of June 2024, he has not been found, and this case remains unsolved.
Interesting. Just vanished pretty much.
For real. You think with all the cameras they have, bro?
Yeah, the murder of Anna
Etta Klein was born one of 4 children to Lloyd and Jean Miller on October 22, 1946, in Brookville, Pennsylvania. Anne was described as a country girl who was kind and humble.
Looks like a dude.
In high school, she met and fell in love with Robert Klein, who went by Bob, and they eventually married. After graduating, they both earned degrees from Penn State. In 1968, they moved to Evansville, Indiana, after they both got jobs working at Alcoa. Bob was an engineer, while Anne worked in the accounting department. 3 years later, in 1971, 24-year-old Anne left Alcoa for a job teaching math at Lockyer College, and also enrolled at the University of Evansville along with Bob to work on her master's degree. In January 1973, Anne's classes were transferred across the street to the basement of the old Vanderburgh County Courthouse after a small fire broke out at Lockyer. Around this time, she had written a letter to her sister saying she wanted to take some time off from teaching to start a family, but sadly, she never got the chance. A week after moving to the basement of the courthouse, on January 18th, business student Dennis Clem, who also worked as a custodian in the building, stopped by Anne's temporary classroom around 2:45 p.m. to inquire about a grade on one of his assignments. According to Dennis, she told him she hadn't finished grading them yet, so he left and clocked in for his 3 p.m. shift. After that, he and a fellow student and co-worker were heading upstairs to begin cleaning when they heard someone scream. Believing it was just some kids messing around, they continued on their way. A few minutes later, they heard a man saying something like, "Get out of here," and decided to check it out. When they arrived back downstairs, they sadly found Anne dead from multiple stab wounds, but her killer was nowhere to be found. Since police arrived so quickly and never saw anyone speeding away, they reached the conclusion that the suspect most likely fled on foot. Plus, there was easy access to Anne's classroom through an alcove off 5th Street. As for who the suspect was, they theorized it was either someone who worked in the building or a student of Anne's. Robbery was ruled out because her purse with her wedding rings was left behind. Anne was known for being a very strict teacher. Could her killer have been a disgruntled student? It's also possible that the murder was premeditated because the knife found at the scene had no blood on it, and it's thought the killer had more than one knife with him. Bob was looked at but quickly ruled out after co-workers vouched that he was in a meeting 20 minutes away when the murder occurred. Plus, according to everyone who knew them, they had a great marriage. Investigators learned that Anne had a meeting planned with someone that day. Whoever that person was, investigators have refused to release their name but say they believe 100% they are the responsible party, but they don't have the physical evidence to arrest them.
Oh, bro.
Years later, a woman came forward and said that her boyfriend's mother had committed the crime. Was that the person Anne was supposed to meet with that day? If so, what was the motive? Sadly, her father and mother died in 2012 and 2016 respectively, without ever finding out who murdered their daughter.
Damn.
As of 2024, investigators still believe they know who killed Anne, but that person has never been arrested, and her case remains unsolved.
I mean, it's solved, but it's just not enough evidence to convict the person then.
Brother.
The strange death of Noah Presgrove.
Noah Alexander Presgrove was
My
born in
fault,
May
shit.
of 2004 in Duncan, Oklahoma. In 2023, 19-year-old Noah was living in Comanche, Oklahoma, and had plans to join the military. Sadly, he would never get the chance. On Labor Day weekend, 2023, Noah went to spend the weekend at his friend Avery Joe's house in Terrell, Oklahoma, to celebrate her 22nd birthday. It was her parents' house, and lots of people showed up for the party Sunday night, September 3rd. Noah had been there since Saturday, but left Sunday morning before the party to take his car home that was leaking oil. He then found a ride back to Avery's. Based on Snapchat and Instagram posts, the party went well, with everyone drinking and having a good time. I mean, it went well for everyone but Noah. The following morning at 5:53, a passing truck driver, along with a man in a white utility truck, discovered Noah's body on the side of Highway 81, about a mile from Avery's home. He was naked, besides a pair of mismatched shoes lying in a fetal position, and his teeth had been knocked out, and one of them was on the ground next to him. He also had multiple broken bones,
Bleeding from both ears. Grace have fun. Cuts on any ears. God damn.
4 times 2 inches of scalp torn off bone, bro. That's crazy. Upper and lower lips split, teeth broken, fragments in mouth. On the left side of tongue, grazes across left eyebrow, corner left eye, left cheek, left side neck, right back of the head, behind the right ear, right back. Pretty much got jumped is what happened then.
So wait, you got what, like curb stomped?
Pretty much is what it looks like from the injuries. Like it was all like blunt force trauma is what it is. There's a 4.2 inches of a scalp torn off the bone.
God damn.
So they literally, he got brutally killed is what John said. That's crazy. So they pretty much beat him up to death and killed him,
including his nose, cheeks, and ribs. He also had severe damage to his skull. As part of the autopsy, the medical examiner performed a toxicology but found no drugs in his system. They did, however, determine his blood alcohol level was 0.14, almost double the legal limit. His ultimate cause of death was ruled the result of multiple blunt force injuries. However, they were not able to determine if the death was the result of a homicide or an accident. By the looks of it, he could have very well been hit by a car, but no car parts or debris were found at the scene. There were also no tire tracks, which you would expect if someone hit him and then slammed on the brakes. The hit-and-run theory was ultimately dismissed by investigators.
There's no
Even
way.
with that, they still aren't investigating it as a murder. I can only assume that's because they don't know if it was murder or an accident that was covered up. One of the main people involved in this case is Noah's best friend, Jack. At 2 a.m. on Monday, September 4th, Noah can be seen on video playing the slap game with a friend while someone in the background is holding a shotgun. That's the last video of him that night. At 3:41 a.m., one of the partygoers posted on social media that Noah was missing. This is strange because people at the party said they weren't aware that Noah was missing until they found out he was found dead. This is where Jack comes in. A guy named Justin, who wasn't at the party, sent him a
Bro, everyone that saw Noah at the view, and including me, saw his face was beat up bad, bro. I know what a beat up face looks like. Definitely not just me saying that. Everyone that saw him said that. Looks like he got beat up by 5 dudes. That's what I mean, is like he looked like he got jumped.
Dude, what the fuck?
text message after the funeral, pointing out that everyone in attendance who saw Noah in the casket said he looked like he got beat up by 5 dudes. Jack, who went fishing with his dad that morning, said he was the one who found Noah.
Beat him on his face, and the cops ruled out him being beat. But just so you know, I'd really tell the cops if I knew anything. I went to sleep early because I was going fishing with my dad, Jack. I know, would it be what time is early, bro? How early? The back of his head was smashed. I went to bed like before he passed away around 4. That's crazy. So they literally jumped him and pretty much crushed his skull, like, to kill him. So that straight up they pretty much just killed the guy.
Yeah.
Fucking and claimed his face never looked like that. This seems suspicious,
like,
but Jack told News Nation
that
he took a polygraph and passed. However, in that same interview, he contradicted his text message and told News Nation that he wasn't aware of Noah's death until the semi-truck driver found him. Since investigators had dismissed the hit-and-run theory, why is Jack still so adamant that that's what happened? Another partygoer by the name of Caden said that Jack woke everyone up at 5:15 a.m. to tell them that Noah was found dead. Caden also said that upon learning of Noah's death, he went to the location and saw him lying on his back wearing black shorts. He claims he was told to leave while Jack stayed behind. Caden believes foul play was involved. If you remember, 911 wasn't called until 5:53 a.m. when the drivers of a semi and a white utility truck found his body on the side of the road. Also, don't forget that when they found him, he was no longer wearing the black shorts. His black shorts were later found and given to Noah's brother. Also found at the scene was his silver necklace, which was broken into 3 pieces. Law enforcement described it as white, which is normal. If it had been gold, they would have said it was yellow. There were also 2 clumps of hair found, one in the middle of the road and another on his butt. It's also of note that one of the shoes Noah was wearing belonged to Caden, while the other was actually Noah's. There were also allegedly shorts found at the scene, lying next to Noah, but they were white, not black, as Caden had previously seen. So what really happened after Caden saw Noah dead? Jack's father, Caleb, now gets involved in the story because he, along with Jack's grandfather, had a fishing trip allegedly planned that day. That's why Jack was allegedly up so early. Caleb says he received a message from Jack at 5:53 a.m. asking him to bring a hat, which is strange considering his best friend just died. Caleb then made inconsistent statements about where he was. At one point, he said that Jack called him and notified him about Noah's death while he and his father, Jack's grandfather, were heading to the fishing location. However, another time, he stated that he was at home getting ready to go fishing when he found out. He says he then drove his wife's car to the scene. Investigators have also noted that stories from other witnesses that night have also been inconsistent. Since everyone was drinking that night, there were bound to be some issues, and sure enough, there were. Partygoers said that Noah and Jack got into multiple fights that night. He then allegedly got into a physical altercation with a 16-year-old after he accused Noah of hiding his phone. As the partygoers got more drunk, girls began writing words and drawing inappropriate pictures on Noah's body. Some of those writings and pictures were on his butt and torso. At some point, he and Jack ended up on a gator riding recklessly around the property. They only stopped after Noah messed up and almost flipped it over, causing him to hurt his hand in the process. A nurse at the party looked at the injury and determined it was fine. At that point, Noah was really dirty from riding around and was given a shower by some of the people at the party. At some point during the night, Noah got upset and asked people for a ride home. He then allegedly got mad and walked away from the house. By 6 a.m. on the day Noah was found, everyone from the party had strangely deleted all of their social media posts from the night before. There were also inconsistent statements about the level of cleaning that was done at the house that morning. Some say only beer cans were thrown away, while others say there was some deep cleaning going on. There is also a conflict between Avery's mother and Noah's aunt. According to Avery's mother, law enforcement did a walkthrough of the house that morning, whereas Noah's aunt said she was told by law enforcement a walkthrough was never done. So what really happened at the house that night? Since the Oklahoma Highway Patrol has said 100% this is not a hit and run, then there is a high possibility that Noah was beaten to death. Most believe that Noah never walked away from the house alive, and that some of the partygoers know the truth but are covering it up. Interestingly, even though there was underage drinking allowed at the home that night, with partygoers ranging in age from 15 to 22, no adults were ever charged. The case is still an ongoing investigation, but as of June 2024, it remains unsolved.
Bro, he should have they just beat his ass is what happened.
It's probably fucking people at the party, bro.
Yeah.
And then the people that did do it were probably threatening the people at the party. Like, if you say anything, y'all are like done, bro.
Yeah, y'all are next.
That's scary, bro.
They were probably drunk, and then he probably scuffled, said some shit. Probably left. They probably told him, like, yeah, we'll give you a ride. Pulled him out of the car, and then probably just jumped his ass and pretty much just killed him on the spot. And then act like nothing happened, you know?
Bro, I don't get how fucking cops get fetal position, bro. They hear or not like hit and run, and then they're like, oh no, they found his body in a fetal position, and they're like, oh, it's a hit and run. Like, bro,
yeah, I'm like, there's no way a body would be in a fetal position. It would be like laid out splat. No.
I mean, unless the dude gets hit, stays alive, curls up, and then dies.
Yeah.
Probably, but all of his damage was up to the head. That was the thing. It's like they went for his head and they pretty much executed him. Oh shit.
No, yeah, 100% the dude, without a doubt, got curb stomped. If he's missing a part of the back of his skull, his teeth are gone. He has lacerations on his lips, on his tongue, and on the back of his ears.
His bone
and
is
that
exposed.
one part behind his head is fucked up. 100% the dude got curb stomped.
Yeah.
Like, everybody at this party is suspicious, bro.
Yeah, I bet you anything it was planned.
Know the truth, but are
I don't think it was planned. I think it was just
a small group probably
even though
planned
there was
it,
underage
while others
drinking
didn't know.
allowed at the home that night, with partygoers ranging in age from 15 to 22.
15 to 22.
No adults were ever charged.
like, bro, there's like hella guys here, and then
Look at that guy on the left. Looks like a grown ass
The
man.
case is still an ongoing investigation, but as of June 2024, it remains unsolved.
this guy too. This guy's
grandfather had a
fucking
fishing trip.
no,
Now
the
gets
friend.
involved in the story
The
because
friend, yeah,
he,
he's
along with
sus.
Jack's
Yeah, very
grandfather,
sus.
had a fishing trip allegedly planned that day. That's why Jack
he like
was
keeps switching up his story.
Oh yeah,
He
it's
probably
like,
was like,
allegedly, it's like kept changing it up, and it's like, okay, now it's not making sense.
poor guy, bro.
Literally.
Poor guy.
unsolved.
That's crazy. Murder of Okie Albert Kite
Okie
Jr.
Albert Kite Jr., who
Alberto!
by Al, was born to parents Okie Sr. and Edith on May 7, 1951, in Rocky Mount Township, North Carolina. He was described as a very kind and gentle individual. After graduating from Weldon High School, he earned a degree from Atlantic Christian College. He then worked as an accountant for Stone & Webster for the next 31 years before being hired by Carter Douglas as a project manager in late 2002 or early 2003. By the spring of 2004, 53-year-old Al, now divorced, was living alone in Aurora, Colorado, and by all accounts was living his best years until it was sadly all taken away. On May 25, 2004, police went to check on him after he failed to show up for work. They knocked on the door, but there was no answer. When they entered the townhouse, everything appeared fine until they reached the basement. That's when they found Al lying dead, face down on the floor. Before being stabbed to death, he was tied up and tortured.
Bro,
The
that's
suspect used
crazy.
several knives to torture Al throughout the ordeal. After he was dead, the suspect placed the knives, a drinking glass, and a set of keys in a kitchen sink and filled it with bleach, basically destroying all the DNA evidence on those items. They were, however, still able to get DNA from
Trying
other
to fuck
areas
out
of the
this Fiji
crime
water.
scene. After that, the suspect stole his truck and drove to a nearby Wells Fargo ATM, where he was captured on surveillance withdrawing $1,000 from Al's account.
That's
While the
crazy.
suspect was captured on camera, he was wearing a ski mask and gloves and could not be identified. After getting the money, he abandoned the truck near Al's home. While Al's wallet was never found, his cell phone was discovered in a payphone booth a few miles away. Investigators didn't have to look far to find the killer. 7 days before the murder, on May 18, 2004, Al, who had decided to rent out his basement, met with a potential tenant. That man he met went by the name Robert Cooper. The meeting went fine, and the man gave Al a security deposit and half the first month's rent. In return, Al provided him with a key to his house. Unfortunately, if he had run a background check or even searched the information provided, he might have realized that everything on the rental agreement from Cooper was false. The social security number, the address, and the phone number all belonged to other people. The address was for an elementary school in Denver, Colorado. The social security number belonged to an 80-year-old woman who lived in Indiana, and the phone number was for a local retirement village in Aurora. To investigators, it appeared that Cooper's whole purpose of renting the room was to commit this crime. For one, they were able to determine that his cell phone was a burner bought from a convenience store in March. He then waited 30 days to activate the phone, which is exactly how long the store kept its surveillance footage. Once the phone was activated, he began calling around for a place to rent. A woman recalled meeting with him and said he came off as very creepy. She also said he spoke with a slight Romanian accent. She knew this because she taught Romanian at a local college. The torture methods used against Al, such as the foot flogging techniques, were traced back to southeastern Europe, more specifically to a group called Turkish Hezbollah. Investigator Paul Holes theorized that the individual may have been part of the horrible torturing practices of Turkish Hezbollah, and once the group disbanded in 2000, he had to find other ways to get his gratification. Thankfully, they were able to draw up a sketch based on that woman's encounter and Al's girlfriend, who had also seen him once. It's also noted that the suspect walked with a limp and used a cane. They even had DNA tested with the help of Parabon Nanolabs and pointed to a suspect from the Balkan region. Unfortunately, even with that, they've still not been able to identify him, and as of June 2024, this case remains unsolved.
That's crazy.
It's fucking terrifying, bro.
The guy literally planned this all out just to torture the guy, pretty much take his money.
Holy shit! Just get 1K from it, bro. 1K? Are you serious?
1K.
No, 1K. My fault, bro.
1K. That's crazy though. Poor guy got tortured to death, and then pretty much robbed, all at the same time. Murder of Patty Ann Stryker.
Patty Ann Stryker was born on September 3, 1964, to parents Thomas Moses and Sheila Derrick in Athens, Tennessee. Patty was described as a friendly and outgoing individual who was also the life of the party. She went on to marry Stanley Stryker, who was 19 years older than she was, and they had 2 children together, in addition to her 2 children from a previous marriage. They remained in Athens, where they owned and operated the Strykers Premium Winery. The winery became a passion for Patty, but unfortunately, it also led to a horrible tragedy. Before I continue, I want y'all to know that I was unable to find a picture of Stan and a couple of other people involved in the case. I looked hard but had no luck. On April 10, 2000, 35-year-old Patty got up and took her children to an Athens elementary school before returning to the winery. Sadly, that's the last time they ever saw their mother alive. Shortly after 9 a.m., an employee at the winery sadly found her shot to death, and the register with all the cash in it was missing. Investigators determined that she was likely killed sometime between 8:30 and 9:15 a.m. Her husband, Stan, immediately became a suspect, mainly due to the fact that he and Patty were going through a nasty divorce, and he had even threatened her in the past. While he was able to prove with surveillance footage that he was at work at the Bowater paper plant in Calhoun, Tennessee at the time, there was still the possibility that he was involved. Some have theorized that he hired someone to commit the crime and that the cash was stolen to throw off investigators. Unfortunately, they were never able to prove that. 2 months before her death, on February 5, 2000, Joe Marlowe, owner of Mont Eagle Winery, 2 hours from Athens, Tennessee, was also murdered. Joe had left the winery that day and drove to his farm where he lived, about 20 miles away in Coffee County. When he got out of his car with the winery's money bag containing thousands of dollars, he was shot to death. While it seems on the surface that someone was killing winery owners, investigators say they could never find a link between them. A year after the murder, Patty's oldest son from a previous marriage filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Stan, seeking $5.5 million in damages. He felt that he had planned the murder and hired someone to carry it out. Not to mention, Patty had been telling everyone that he was going to kill her. With no proof that Stan had anything to do with Patty's murder, the lawsuit was dismissed. After her murder, the winery closed down and then suspiciously caught fire in 2012. Let's go back to the murder of Joe Marlowe, owner of the Mont Eagle Winery, because while investigators say there is no connection, his winery was set on fire the same year he and Patty were murdered. If they aren't connected, it's possible that someone, maybe Stan, got the idea to murder Patty and then burn down the winery years later after seeing what happened at Mont Eagle Winery. This is likely considering that Joe Marlowe's murder was solved a year later and linked back to his wife Louise, an employee of his, Roger Dale Wimley, and Wimley's wife Lori. For Joe's murder, his wife, 74-year-old Louise, was sentenced to a year in jail and 6 years of house arrest. Seems like very little considering she arranged the entire thing. She probably wasn't given much time due to her declining health from having multiple strokes. As for Roger, he was given 15 years and released in 2012. His wife Lori was given 5 months and released in 2005. 2 years after the Stryker Winery fire in 2014, this case would take a shocking turn. On February 12, 2014, Stan told his 16-year-old son and 17-year-old daughter he needed help cleaning up the site of the old winery where Patty was murdered. After arriving, he pulled out a gun and shot them. Thankfully, the shots weren't fatal, and they both fled to a neighbor's house. Meanwhile, Stan walked back to his vehicle, got inside, and took his own life. In the end, the daughter was shot twice, and the boy was shot once, but they both thankfully survived. Even with that, investigators have not found proof to prove that Stan had Patty murdered, and as of June 2024, this case remains unsolved.
That's crazy.
God damn, bro. People are crazy, man.
Literally, what the fuck?
Bro. Okay, let's watch something more where they actually solve that shit, bro. Cause this shit's getting depressing, bro. Cause let's watch this.
Scene twist.
Hi everyone.
27.
Shut up.
Hi everyone. Dial.
Wow. Okay, there you go.
In this video, we're going to check 5 decades-old cold cases that were solved in 2021.
Yeah,
Welcome
dickheads.
to Mysterious 5.
John says, please do a true
The first
scary
case
animated
on our
story.
list is the case of Annette Schnee
You could
and
do one
Bobby
after
Joe
this.
Oberholzer. In 1982, in Breckenridge, Colorado, 2 lifeless bodies of 2 different women were discovered. The crime scenes were miles
Okay,
from
also
one
says, please
another,
do one.
and the bodies were found 6 months apart. And yet, police believed that both women were killed on the same night, by the same man. The only thing connecting them? Orange socks.
The fuck? A booty?
On January 6, 1982, Bobby Joe Oberholzer, 29 years old, left home at 7:15 a.m. Her day had begun as usual, and she hitchhiked to work. Jeff Oberholzer was Bobby's husband. He ran an appliance repair business, and she worked as a receptionist. They had been married for about 4.5 years at the time of Bobby's death, and they lived in Alma, 14 miles away from where her body was eventually found. At 6:20 p.m, Jeff got a call from Bobby saying she was having drinks with friends after work. He asked her if she wanted him to pick her up, but she told him that she would get a ride home. Jeff made dinner and waited for Bobby to come home. At some point, he fell asleep. He woke up around midnight and discovered that his wife hadn't returned. Jeff drove into Breckenridge to look for Bobby, and her friends told him
Look at
she
that
left
map,
the bar
looks
around
like-
7:30 p.m. They assumed she got on a ride home.
It's home anymore.
When Jeff reported to police that Bobby was missing, they told him it was too early to file a report. Finally, he drove back home to wait for his wife. The next morning, a farmer who lived 30 miles outside Breckenridge found Bobby's driver's license on his property. When Jeff and two friends were on their way to pick it up, they made a disturbing discovery. Something blue in a snow-covered field. It was Bobby's backpack, the one she always had with her. Next to the backpack was one of Bobby's gloves, spattered with blood and several bloody tissues. Jeff's friends helped him organize a search. 2 hours later, they found Bobby's lifeless body, more than 15 miles from where her backpack was discovered. She'd been shot twice.
I know, I see.
Her house keys were found at the scene. At the crime scene,
No, that actually
police
got
found
me.
3 intriguing clues.
Like-
Waiting for it, dude.
The only footprints near the body were from Bobby.
Oh, fuck you. For
A plastic cord was tied around one of her wrists, and a single orange sock was found nearby. The same day Bobby Joe's body was found, another woman, Annette Schnee, 21 years old, was reported missing. Annette was a
You
cocktail
scared monkey.
waitress in Frisco, Colorado,
Huh?
and
You
like
scared
Bobby,
monkey.
often hitchhiked to and from work.
He's like the
Because of
Nazi.
the similarities, both cases were immediately connected by the police. Investigators questioned Jeff about Annette. At first, he denied knowing her.
I knew it was
However,
added.
after seeing her picture on the news, he recalled meeting her once. Jeff claimed he had once picked up Annette when she was hitchhiking, and he had given her his business card, but he had never seen or heard from her since that day. He also denied any involvement in her disappearance or Bobby's death. On July 3rd, 1982, 6 months after her disappearance and 13 miles away from where Bobby Joe's body had been found, Annette's body was discovered. Police were shocked with the discovery that she was wearing the match for the orange sock. Jeff's business card was found inside her wallet. The prime suspect immediately became Jeff Oberholzer. Authorities tried to put together a scenario for what might have happened on the night of January 6th. Annette Schnee was last seen in Breckenridge at around 4 p.m. in deep conversation with an unidentified dark-haired woman. Police believe that around 5 p.m, Annette left to hitchhike home. The suspect picked her up and drove 20 miles south of Breckenridge. He took her down a small dead-end road where he assaulted her in his vehicle. While she was getting dressed, she forgot to put on her other orange sock and attempted to escape when she was shot in the back while running away. Police believe the suspect then drove back to Breckenridge and found his second victim, Bobby Joe Oberholzer. He drove Bobby 10 miles south of Breckenridge to a scenic overlook where he attempted to assault her. Bobby managed to escape from the vehicle where the orange sock then fell out. The suspect then chased her down the road and shot her twice as she turned away.
It's crazy.
Police felt the fact that Jeff Oberholzer knew both victims was more than just a coincidence. 2 months after his wife's death, Jeff took a polygraph test and passed. From day one, Jeff insisted that he had an alibi. He said that at the time of the deaths, he was at home visiting a friend. For nearly 9 years, no one could find this man. Then in December 1990, he finally surfaced and was questioned about that night. Investigators interviewed the man, who claimed that he had been at Jeff's house. However, his time and Jeff's time of the visit didn't match up. Jeff Oberholzer had always maintained his innocence and claimed that the suspect had to be someone that Bobby knew. She wouldn't have left with a stranger, especially when he offered to pick Bobby up. For years, the blood found on Bobby's gloves and the tissues with her backpack were believed to be hers. However, in the early 1990s, DNA testing determined that it came from a male. The testing also determined that the blood wasn't Jeff's. As a result of this and other evidences, including several alibi witnesses, Jeff was eventually cleared as a suspect in the case. Police looked into several other suspects as well. One was cab driver Thomas Edward Luther, who in February 1982 picked up a hitchhiker in Breckenridge, then beat and insulted her. While in jail, he allegedly bragged about being responsible for the deaths. According to his girlfriend, he didn't come home on the fateful night. He also lied to investigators and said he was at work at the time. The other suspect, Tracy Petrocelli, killed his fiancée in 1981 and went on a multi-state crime spree. During this time, he stayed at Annette's workplace, the Holiday Inn in Frisco. However, neither suspect's DNA matched the evidence from the crime scene. On February 24th, 2021, a 70-year-old man named Alan Lee Phillips was arrested and charged with the deaths. He was also charged with kidnapping and assaulting with a deadly weapon. He is currently being held without bail. Genetic genealogy was used to link the DNA found at the crime scene to Phillips. Investigators also suspect that he may be involved in other crimes throughout Colorado. Sadly, Bobby's brother, Kelly, and father Thomas have passed away before finding out who was responsible for taking her life.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Next on the list is the case of Gail Barris. On October 9th, 1988, Gail Barris was spotted leaving a coffee shop in the early hours of the morning, accompanied by a man. This was the last time Barris was ever seen alive. She was a 30-year-old single mother of 3 from Michigan. Life was hard, and she worked at 2 different local bars to be able to survive and take care of her 3 children. In the early hours of October 9th, 1988, between 3 and 4 a.m., Barris was spotted leaving Speed's coffee shop in Battle Creek, Michigan. She was accompanied by a dark-haired man, and that was the last time anyone saw her alive. On October 25th, hunters from Emmett, a nearby town, made a horrifying discovery. They found a lifeless body of a woman laying on River Road. The authorities quickly identified the body to be that of Gail Barris, and an extensive investigation followed. Witnesses were identified and interviewed, and evidence was collected from the crime scene. On October 22nd, just a few days before Barris's body was discovered and almost 2 weeks after her disappearance, a 24-year-old man named Roger Plato was approached by authorities. Plato's car matched the description from a victim of a different abduction and assault case. At 4:30 p.m, authorities attempted to detain him at gunpoint while he was walking to his car at a parking lot in Bellevue. Plato became aggressive, refused to cooperate, and started fighting back. He was shot when he tried to wrestle the gun from a detective, and as a result, died from the injuries. He was never interviewed. Authorities performed an autopsy, and a blood sample was taken before the body was cremated, which was stored at a private lab at the time. Investigators of Barris's case turned their attention to Plato's friend and former roommate, Richard Compton. Compton had a vast criminal career, but when approached by investigators, he backed off and denied knowing anything. With no further leads or developments, Barris's case eventually went cold. In 2018, Battle Creek cold case detective Scott Marshall reopened the case. One of his first discoveries was that Compton's DNA had never been tested, so made Compton his #1 suspect. After some investigation, Detective Marshall discovered that Compton had died in 2009, and his body was buried in the County International Cemetery in Austin, Texas. Compton was just 59 years old when he died. After examination, it was discovered that Compton's DNA samples didn't match that found in Barris's body, but matched previously unidentified hairs connected to the crime scene. In November 2020, a break in the case emerged, almost by luck. Sergeant Chris Bassick of the Calhoun County Sheriff's Department was taking an inventory of evidence at the department and found a vial containing the blood sample taken from Plato. On January 30th, 2021, it was announced that a state police lab connected the blood to DNA found on Gail Barris's body, confirming Plato as responsible for assaulting her and taking her life. It's almost likely that Compton witnessed it happening. Both men have already died, and they never had to pay for this horrible crime. However, the Barris family has expressed their relief on finally being able to have some kind of closure. Detective Marshall said DNA technology is the future for solving cold cases. We now come to the case of Stephanie Summers. On August 30th, 1980, Stephanie Summers was supposed to spend the day with a nephew. They were going to celebrate his birthday and spend a wonderful day together. However, she never appeared. Police eventually found her lifeless body inside her apartment. Summers was a 36-year-old woman who lived in Silver Lake, Los Angeles, California. She'd only recently moved there from Newhall, Santa Clarita, and she couldn't be more excited. On that fatal day of August 30th, she was at her apartment getting ready to spend the day with her 11-year-old nephew, Kelly Roberts, from Santa Clarita Valley. She was planning to pick him up and take him to Six Flags Magic Mountain as a late birthday present. Kelly got dressed up especially for the occasion. However, his aunt never turned up. Concerned, her family contacted the authorities, who went to check her apartment. That's when they made the grisly discovery. Stephanie's lifeless body was laying inside her apartment. Forensic evidence was collected at the crime scene, and an extensive investigation began. Several people were interviewed. However, the leads went nowhere, and the case went cold. The case remained unsolved for more than 3 decades until Los Angeles detectives received a fresh lead in 2014. It implicated a man named Harold Anthony Parkinson, who lived a mile away from the victim, and he could be a main suspect in the case. On June 19, 2014, a DNA sample collected from Parkinson was consistent with the DNA profile taken from Summers' body, and he was charged with taking her life. However, Parkinson was already in jail, serving between 15 years to life at the Chuckawalla Valley State Prison in Blythe for another unrelated attack. This other attack happened in Los Angeles on April 8, 1981, when he shot a man named Derek Eugene Perry. Perry succumbed to the injuries and died. Parkinson was arrested and began serving time for that sentence on March 5, 1982. Perry's sister Dolly said, at the time, "I remember the last meal I had with Derek. It was at a Sizzler restaurant. He gave me a hug and told me he loved me." She described her older sibling as an excellent BMX rider and surfer and a brilliant big brother. The motive of the attack was unknown or undisclosed by authorities. After learning that Parkinson was being accused of Summers' death, Dolly said that he is a dangerous man and should never be allowed back on the streets. In court, Parkinson's lawyer argued that his client hadn't assaulted Summers and claimed that the two were romantically involved and they slept together a few days before she was attacked. Prosecutors, however, said Summers, after a brief marriage to a man, had told friends that she was only attracted to women. Los Angeles court judge Kathleen Kennedy described Summers' case as a very degrading, horrible, and violent crime. Judge Kennedy believed there was proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Parkinson was responsible for this. On February 4, 2021, Harold Anthony Parkinson, who is now 61 years old, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
God damn.
That's crazy.
Our next case is the case of Sylvia May Quayle. On August 4, 1981, William Quayle went to visit his daughter in Cherry Hills Village near Denver, Colorado. She lived just 150 feet from his home. What he discovered was something no parent should ever have to witness. According to her friends, 34-year-old Sylvia May Quayle was ambitious, vibrant, friendly, and lit up the room when she walked in. She loved history and worked as a secretary at an architectural firm. An excellent cook, she also opened up her own business specializing in wedding cakes. Quayle had a lot of friends and was an avid artist. She loved to create pottery, many of which her sister still has in her home 3 decades later. She was extremely close to her family, especially her parents, who lived just 150 feet away from her home and had coffee with them every morning. Until that morning. Just before 8 a.m. on August 4th, 1981, officers were dispatched to Sylvia's house after her father found her lifeless body and called 911. Sylvia Quayle had spoken to her sister on the phone the previous night, around 11 p.m, so investigators knew she'd been killed between the time she hung up the phone that night and when her father got to the house 9 hours later. Her father told the officers he'd arrived to find his daughter lying naked on the living room floor. Investigation revealed that she'd been shot, stabbed multiple times, strangled, assaulted. The autopsy confirmed the loss of blood was ultimately the cause of death. Investigators found 2 important clues at the crime scene. The telephone line in the living room and outside the house had been cut, and the bathroom window screen had been removed and tossed into some tall weeds. About 140 more pieces of evidence were collected from the scene, and over time, a variety of technological advances were used on the items as investigators tried to solve the crime. In 1983, 2 years after her death, forensic technicians using an alternate light source found DNA material not from Sylvia in the rug where her body was found laying. The same year brought hope for investigators in the Quayle family after notorious serial killer Otis Elwood Toole confessed to have taken Sylvia's life.
Yeah, look, those teeth just split
Many of
almost.
Toole's confessions were later known to be
Put a quarter
false,
in that shit.
along those of his companion, Henry Lee Lucas. Lucas,
A monkey
who
says
died in
we
a
should
Texas
do,
prison in
watch scary
2001,
ghost videos.
claimed hundreds of victims. However, authorities were only able to confirm a handful. In 1993, the charges against Toole and Sylvia's death were dropped. At the time, DNA testing on evidence in the case had proven that Toole was not the source of the DNA found at the crime scene 12 years earlier. In 1995, a section of the rug was cut out and submitted to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to be tested. 5 years later, the sample provided authorities with an unknown male DNA profile. However, no match was found and the case went cold. In January 2020, Cherry Hills Village cold case detectives and investigators decided to use the recent technology of genetic genealogy in Sylvia's case. 4 months later, a name surfaced: David Dwayne Anderson.
The fuck's going on with the audio?
Sylvia's death.
God, this audio makes it
Anderson,
creepy.
then 22 years old, lived a couple of miles away
The audio.
What happened?
began
No, it's all
investigating
fucked
Anderson. One particular investigator,
Pause it
Robert
real quick.
Fuller, traveled to Cozad, where
I'm just stroking my dick. I got lotion in my dick right now. I'm just stroking my shit. I'm horny.
Damn, Angel.
No, the audio is all fucked up. Alright, play it again.
Anderson now lived
There you go.
to secretly collect the
The fuck?
suspect's DNA.
Oh, hell.
Fuller was able to recover 2 trash bags Anderson had tossed into a dumpster. Inside were 15 items that potentially held Anderson's genetic material. Included among the items was a vanilla Coke can. On January 29th, 2021, genetic material taken out of the vanilla Coke can matched the ones found in the body and crime scene. When investigators looked into Anderson's past,
Some
they
long ass
found a
fingernails.
string
Holy
of
shit.
at least 8 home and business burglaries between 1981 and 1986.
Okay, it's like, bro, please
In
stop
one of the
that.
home
No,
burglaries,
the audio
he
freaking
removed and tossed a window screen to gain entrance. Anderson, now 62 years old, was arrested on February 10th, 2021.
Dude.
The first photograph is of Anderson in 1980. If anyone recognizes this photograph of him from this time period and has information surrounding or involving this case, we ask that you please call the Cherry Hills Village Police Department tip line at 720-305-9831.
William and Mary Quayle didn't live to see their daughter's
Fellas
killer
remember that?
charged.
Like, nope.
William died in 1999, and his wife followed 10 years later.
Why the fuck am I still awake, dude? I have work
Our
at
final
3 hours.
case is the case of Bonnie Baker. On the
Did you
night of
cook?
June 30th, 1998,
Playing geometry dash,
Baker
dude.
was celebrating her recent promotion with some friends. Her boyfriend at the time showed up unexpectedly to the party.
Oh,
After a few tense moments, they both left, and that was the last time she was ever seen alive. Bonnie Baker was a 47-year-old woman from Denver, Colorado, where she shared an apartment with a boyfriend, Crespin Nene Perez.
god
The
damn!
couple
Look at
had
those
met
eyebrows.
at the Fort restaurant in Morrison, where they both worked.
Mid-level
Baker was
one.
the perfect employee, never calling in sick,
It was a
and always
bush.
showing up on time. The same couldn't be said about Perez, who had been fired a month earlier for missing work. Baker decided to celebrate her recent promotion with her friends at one of their places in Golden. They planned to spend the night
Pepsis.
partying. The night quickly turned for the worse after Baker's boyfriend unexpectedly showed up to the friend's place. Perez arrived at the party and almost immediately started to make a scene. He was jealous seeing his girlfriend drinking and dancing with her friends in the living room. Several witnesses at the party later said that Perez looked as if he had taken illicit substances. His eyes were red and glazed, and he was very aggressive. He also continuously eyed everyone off at the party, attempting to instigate a fight with anyone who stared back. Baker's last known words to a friend were, "It would be better if I just go now, or it will be worse." The pair left the party early when the situation became heated. At around 8 p.m. that night, authorities received a phone call from an unidentified woman. She reported that a man had taken a woman's life in an apartment on West Louisiana Avenue. She also claimed that the man was about to drive to Mexico in a red vehicle with Colorado license plates, and the woman's body was in the trunk, which he was planning to dump somewhere along the way. When tracing the call, police found that it was made from a payphone, so they rushed to the address given. In the apartment, there were no signs of a struggle, and no one was found. The next day, Perez's car was involved in a single vehicle collision near Globe, Arizona, but he fled the scene on foot. The car ended up being impounded, and upon examination, blood was collected from the trunk as evidence. The case was shelved, but was re-investigated a year later due to possible new evidence. On July 31st, 1999, two boys went horseback riding in a remote part of a Navajo reservation in New Mexico. They stumbled across what appeared to be a human skull and immediately contacted authorities. After searching the area, investigators found several more skeletal remains. Despite the find, the results of the autopsy and the reason for the death remained inconclusive. The case went cold due to the lack of evidence and correlation between Baker, the missing person, and the found remains. In October of 2012, cold case detective Kenneth Klaus from Denver was assigned Baker's case and immediately called an FBI agent in New Mexico to discuss her disappearance. DNA samples from the remains found on the Navajo reservation were sent to Denver's crime lab for forensic testing. They matched samples collected from Bonnie Baker. On April 4th, 2013, the unknown female caller came forward admitting that she was the one who called 911 the night of Baker's disappearance. She also claimed that she cleaned out the couple's apartment after their disappearance and before the authorities arrived, where broken plates and glass covered the floor and the kitchen table was overturned. The unidentified woman also gave a full description of the red vehicle, which was later determined to be a Geo Prism, as well as its license plate number. And according to the woman, Perez told her that night, "I know that you don't like Bonnie. Something bad happened to us. You'll never have to see Bonnie again because I'm going to make her disappear." This woman's relationship with the couple was not yet revealed by the authorities. Another witness also identified Perez as the driver of the red Geo from a photo lineup. After further rounds of witness interviews and forensic DNA testing, the gathered evidence concluded that there was enough ground to arrest Crespin Nene Perez. A warrant was issued for Perez's arrest, but the arrest couldn't be made as he was now living in Mexico. His extradition to the United States didn't happen until 2020. Prosecutors theorized that Baker's body was likely left in a shallow grave within a day of a disappearance. On January 27, 2021, a preliminary reading in the case was held in Denver court, and Perez faces charges for abducting and taking Baker's life.
What the fuck?
If you found this interesting, then be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button. You don't want to miss out what other mysteries are waiting for you.
Nice.
Crazy stories.
Fuck, dude.
I want to see an animated one.
See an animated one?
Yeah.
Alright, let me do Llama Arts.
By Llama Arts. I forgot about those guys.
Let's do true crime. Does he have true stories? True crime? I'm not watching no fucking horror one. I'm not gonna, oh my, we're not
What
watching
the
that shit. I want to sleep tonight, bro.
That's an hour and 26 minutes. Holy
We're
shit.
not watching. I love it when you talk to me.
What's the most
can't
popular
imagine.
one?
Terrifying morning jog. School lockdown? I've seen this one, I think. I'm pretty sure y'all have seen these, right?
14
People
horror.
in chat.
I love that guy. These are long.
Dude, this stupid ass fucking.
I seen the pizza delivery one.
Huh?
No, like I remember watching the pizza delivery one.
How do I do this one?
School lockdown, stories 2, animated.
Have you seen it?
I don't think I have. I haven't seen all of them. Yo, fuck. John's like, I love that guy. Do some videos, please, on watching him, please.
Okay, watch this one.
I'm 22 years old, fresh out of college, and I recently got a job at my old high school as a sort of computer intern in the school basement. The basement of the school is very messy and disorganized, but there is a
You
small
got the
3-person
knuckles?
office that's actually very nice
Dude,
down there.
ugly.
It has 3 nice big desks, 2 mini fridges, a flat screen TV
Dude,
mounted on the wall, and oh so satisfying air conditioning, a luxury the students and teachers cannot enjoy in the school. And of course all the school servers and other computery stuff. I got the job because 3 of my old computer teachers flat out adored me. I could actually consider them as real friends, not just teacher figures, so they all helped tremendously in landing me this job. It's been great, until something that happened a few weeks ago. My 2 co-workers that shared the office with me, Dave and Gary, weren't in the office at the time. They were upstairs working on papers or whatever. I was eating my sandwich during my lunch break when I got a phone call from one of the women in the front office telling me the school was on lockdown and that somebody, possibly armed, had entered the school. There wasn't much that I could do other than turn off the lights because, surprisingly, as nice as this little office was, it didn't have an actual door to it, just a big opening, and the door to the whole basement didn't even have a working lock. For my own safety, I did turn off all the lights in the office and my computer screen. I kept my phone on the desk, texting both Gary and Dave, but they wouldn't respond. I sat down there in the dark playing games on my phone for like 20 minutes, waiting for the call from up front to tell me to resume working.
Some shit I would do.
I had no idea what was happening. I couldn't hear what was going on upstairs from down here. But I was not allowed to make any calls until I was informed that the lockdown was over. Then, the noisy basement door opened. As the creaking echoed across the basement and into my office, I sat up from my seat, wondering if I should call out Gary or Dave. I was eager to get some info from them. Someone then came running down the stairs, and their footsteps were approaching my office. I pushed away my chair and crawled under my desk. Somebody entered the office, but did not turn on the lights. There was just silence. I can't even describe the fear I was experiencing. I felt like if I made one sudden noise, I'd be a dead man. Suddenly, my phone dinged as I got a text message. I felt my entire world shrivel up and die at that one moment as I clenched my teeth in fear.
Yeah.
Suddenly moved closer to me until I finally dove out from under the desk in capitulation, begging whoever it was not to kill me. And just then, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me up.
His friend.
It was some guy in a red plaid button-up, jeans, and a reddish-black cap. He told me, "It's okay, I'm just down here hiding with you." "What's going on up there?" I whispered to him. He kind of ignored my question and asked me if there's an exit down here. I told him, yeah, around that way. Before he could do anything else, I asked him, "Who are you?" There was a brief moment of silence. Before he started explaining he was coming in to pick up his son, when a teacher told him to hide. After his explanation, I checked my phone and saw the text I received was from Dave. It said, "Dude, this is fucking crazy. Some guy with a gun shot Mr. Buckley. He's wearing a red shirt and a hat. Whatever you do, don't come upstairs." I was about to reread that text out loud to the man, until I realized. I looked up and felt my stomach sink. The man seemed to catch on to my suspicious stare. Panicking, all I could think to do was to run for the upstairs. A gunshot echoed through the basement, and I could hear the bullet ricochet off something metal in the darkness. But thank God the bullet missed me, and I made it upstairs. Fortunately, police were waiting at all exits, including the basement exit, and caught the man the second he opened the door. More good news, our teacher Mr. Buckley survived the gunshot. It was later determined that the man and Mr. Buckley had some beef for whatever reason, but that was never revealed. All we know is that Mr. Buckley couldn't have done anything that would have warranted this kind of reaction. And I know that the sound of that gunshot will forever echo in my mind.
The fuck? What blows brains out.
He's fucking killed at the end.
Yeah, Deadpool shit right there. They want you to play that. They want you to play that other audio, the stroking my shit.
Over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now. I'm just stroking my shit. I'm horny.
Leave the field trip one.
Where?
It's up top.
This one?
Yeah. Okay.
This one?
The Shooter award-winning short film. Beef.
Damn, this one's long. We should watch this
Back in
one.
high school, I
Which
took
one?
a mysteries and mythology type
the other one?
class, or something like that. I don't remember the name of the class. It basically just had to do with real-life mysteries and creepy shit. I was into that kind of stuff. I was taking the class with a good friend, who I'll call Ben for this story. The teacher of the class took us on a field trip to a nearby abandoned village with an unknown past. The village was built in the early 1900s, but seems as though it had been quickly abandoned shortly after it was built. The bus ride there was about 20 minutes. All of us were glued to the bus windows as we pulled up some sketchy-looking, decrepit road cutting through dense forest. The road eventually led to a clearing. We were there. We stepped out onto the road, which had grass growing through the cracks. The grass surrounding was almost knee-high. Then there were the buildings. The tall, archaic brick buildings with the boarded-up windows all gave off such chilling vibes. The teacher lined all 20 of us up, counted heads, and then began leading the way. The point of this little field trip was to use the so-called skills we learned in class to see if we could put anything together about why the village may have been abandoned so long ago. Some of the buildings had holes in the walls to serve as entryways. There were even holes in the ground next to some of the buildings, seemingly dug to get into the basements of some of the buildings, which seemed creepy. There was one building though. It stood taller than any of the others. It just intrigued me the most. While the teacher was leading the group towards the village church, Ben and I decided to sneak off on our own to look for anything interesting.
Pendejos.
When we walked off in the direction of the tallest building, we saw a hole in the ground. It was dug by the back door of the building, which had been sealed off. In the hole was a ladder which led down to the concrete floor below. We both looked at each other and knew we had to do it. Ben climbed down first, then me. Luckily, this was just around the time Apple started putting flashlights on their phones, so we had a source of light. It was creepy down there.
Dying, isn't it?
There were a couple of beer bottles, one graffiti tag on the wall, and dusty wooden planks everywhere. There was a wooden stairway which led up to complete darkness, since all windows and doors had been sealed shut from above. We had already gone as far as to enter the building, so we figured we'd go up the stairs too. I went first, and with each step, the creakiness of the 100-year-old wood made me feel as if I was going to fall through each and every step. Ben followed suit. This floor of the building was very tight. It seemed like there were many openings going off into different, smaller rooms. It was so dark in there, you would never even guess it was daytime. Ben and I were honestly starting to get creeped out in there, and agreed to go back outside. But just then, there was a noise in one of the tiny rooms, like a big rock hitting the concrete floor. A normal instinct would be to run, but Ben and I froze, locked eyes for a moment, then both tiptoed over to the opening of the room. We shined the lights into the room, and ran. We ran back down the stairs and then up the rusty ladder back outside. We caught up to the group out of breath. We didn't say anything though to avoid getting in trouble. One of our classmates asked us what was wrong. We told him we snuck into one of the buildings, and in one of the rooms, when we shined the light into it, we saw 3 guys standing maybe 10 feet away from the doorway, facing Ben and I in a weird formation, as if they were waiting for us. As we continued following the group, we paid extra attention to the tall building we entered from the distance. And before leaving, we saw a person's face at one of the higher level windows that had not been boarded up. We never told the teacher in fear of getting in trouble. We didn't know what to think. Were those just homeless people living in there? Were they gang members in hiding? Ben freaks me out with his theory. He says they were ghosts of the people who once lived in the town.
Oh, my fuck.
Still, the way the 3 guys were just hauntingly standing there so calmly, staring at us the moment we peeked our heads through that doorway, I still can't get that image out of...
Alright, let's analyze this shit real quick. This motherfucker is not scary. This motherfucker looks like he's sleep deprived.
They all look like they're sleep deprived.
This motherfucker looks like the...
Motherfucker looks like a robot.
Motherfucker looks like Homer Simpson.
My head. I may go back to that village one day, just to prove Ben's idea wrong.
Would you go back?
Yeah, why would you go back? Maybe some guy stroking his shit. God damn, that was loud. The fuck? Oh.
Who is this? Oh shit. I think I'm headed to bed.
Just watch this one. Just watch the last one. I'll put
Bro.
It's
How
only
long is
6
this?
minutes.
Kid,
It's only
my
6
parents would
minutes.
sometimes bring me down to my aunt and uncle's
Yes.
place to stay for the weekend. Mainly, I'd spend time playing with my two cousins who were around the
He
same
left.
age as me. They lived on a small farm with plenty of open
What a
space,
guy.
and we could run around doing pretty much
This is
whatever
my last
we
one, too.
wanted.
All
If
right.
we thought we could get away with it, the three of us would sometimes cross over to the neighboring farm about half a mile away. It had been abandoned for decades, with a scattering of derelict buildings and other structures still standing on the property, just begging to be explored. This was of course a gold mine for three adventurous young boys such as ourselves, especially after my cousins told me stories about the deaths that took place in the house. It was pretty classic fare. Man goes crazy, axe murders his entire family, hangs himself, returns every night as an angry spirit looking for new victims. Good, grisly stuff. Even
up,
at that
chunky butt?
age, I knew they were probably making it up, or at least embellishing old rumors. But seeing as how the setting lent itself so well to such tales, I allowed myself to buy into it. One afternoon, we decided to play hide and seek. When it was my turn to hide, I ran off for a flimsy brown barn that had living quarters on top and climbed the stairs looking for a good spot. There was still furniture inside, and personal belongings lay scattered across the floor. I maneuvered over broken dishes, tattered clothes, and crumbling books, eventually coming to a small room with a closet. Jackpot. There were even long black
Jackpot,
dresses still
baby.
hanging on the rod that I could hide behind. I stepped inside and managed to force shut the folding door. My only illumination was a slit of sunlight that shone through the crack in the door from a nearby window. I crouched down with knees tucked into chest and waited.
I don't understand why you would
Some
hide in
time
a creepy
passed
ass
and there was
house.
still no sign of my seekers.
For real.
I waited
Why?
some more, debating if and when I should give myself up. After nearly an hour, this was starting to get boring. My head drooped. I awoke with a jerk. It was pitch black. Drowsy and confused, I forgot for a minute where I was or what I had been doing. As it came back to me, the realization that it was now nighttime and that I had been abandoned here filled me with sinking dread in the pit of my stomach. I tried to get up, but a sudden cramp in my calf kept me grounded. I squirmed about, waiting for it to pass, when I heard a door slamming shut downstairs, and instantly froze. One of my cousins? There was a brief period of silence, then footsteps at the bottom of the stairs. But not just footsteps, a thud too. After every other step. These weren't the footfalls of a child. They were slow, heavy, deliberate. I held my breath, praying they would go away. They did not. The noises continued to ascend. After another moment of silence, the walking resumed, this time along with a steady scraping sound, like something heavy being dragged across the floorboards. The footsteps made their way through the debris and wandered aimlessly through the various rooms. I thought I could smell something faintly putrid. The constant scrape sent cold shivers coursing down my arms and back. My worst fears were realized when the steps reached the bedroom doorway. They got closer and closer and finally stopped directly in front of the closet door. I couldn't see a thing. After an agonizing pause, they continued on over to the other side of the room and out the doorway again. They faded away down the hallway. I waited for what seemed like an eternity. There were no more sounds now, and I was trying to build up enough courage to open the door and flee. 3 things happened simultaneously just then. I was bombarded with a smell I can only describe as fresh roadkill. I heard raspy breathing behind me in the dark closet, and I felt hot breath against the nape of my neck. That was enough for me to hurtle myself out from the confines of that nightmare space, relying on memory and scant moonlight to navigate through the darkened house. All the while, I heard footsteps chasing behind me, closing in with terrifying speed. It was a clumsy, torturous escape full of trips and bumps and blind stumbling. I never looked back, at least not until I had burst out the front door and into the country night. And when I did turn around, I saw absolutely nothing.
fuck?
There were no more footsteps and nobody was chasing me.
I'll pop up right now.
That didn't stop me from running though, all the way back to my aunt and uncle's house. There was a police car in the driveway when I got back. My parents were there too, worried sick. Everybody demanded to know where I had been. Apparently, when my cousins still hadn't found me by evening, they'd returned home to tell their parents. Eventually, the police were called in and informed me that they had already scoured every building on the farm. The insinuation that I was lying about my whereabouts didn't go unnoticed. None of it made any sense. It wasn't until years later that one of my cousins filled in a final piece of the story. He and his brothers had spent hours searching for me like they said, but the part they didn't tell anyone was that they thought they spotted me in the window of the bedroom I was hiding in. And when they got closer, they saw that it wasn't me. A young boy neither of them recognized was smiling and waving down at them,
Alberto!
and gesturing for them to come upstairs. That's when they ran back home. All of this while I slept in the closet.
Yeah, I'm good, bro. That's it for me.
Alright.
Go to bed. Good
Well,
night, stream.
Yeah. Well, for anyone watching, as always, we're gonna end it off there. But again, if this gets more than 5-7 likes, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
But as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope you enjoy, and I'll probably be going live shortly. First, just gotta deal with some things and then think of a game to stream. But yeah, I'm gonna end it off there. But hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, that was fun. It was actually quite entertaining. Eight likes, okay. Alright, well, I guess 9 likes. Okay, well, now there's gonna be... Well, expect more then. We'll try to make this... Alright, I'm gonna end it off there,
Shut
but...
the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Fuck you.
Shut the fuck up.
9 likes, alright. Well, I'm gonna end it off there,
Shut
but...
the fuck up.
Fuck you. Fucking piece of shit. Alright.
Shut the fuck up.
I fucking hate you. You piece of shit. Alright, well, I'm gonna end the stream. Fuck you.
Shut the fuck up.
Alright, I'm gonna end the stream there, but as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in the next stream. Pretty soon. Pretty much. Alright, but I'll be going live again shortly. I'll just have to see what game. Alright, peace.